to That's Canon, the podcast talking about the Canon film series and other similar movies. This is episode 66, and I'm Phil.
And I'm Greg.
Greg, it feels like we rewatched a movie that we've seen before, because we watched 52 Pickup.
52 Pickup, another interpretation of a novel called... What was the novel called?
The Elmore Leonard book, I'm vamping. Oh, it's actually called 52 Pickup. The book is actually called 52
Is it
Pickup.
really? So that might answer the question the first question I was going to ask you, Phil, which was how much more faithful to the book is this movie? Because I'm just on the title alone, but also the content, I'm guessing this was much more faithful than the weird, like, peace in the Middle East message that we got with The Ambassador, right?
It's gotta be. It has to be. And I gotta say, The Ambassador was dreadful in
Yes,
all
agree.
the wrong ways. This one was such a drastic improvement.
Oh, okay. I'm glad that we feel the same way because the beginning of this one was a little slow for me. I think it was a little overlong, but the second half, when shit really started to hit the fan, I actually quite enjoyed it. It was not a bad little like thriller, little crime thriller.
I will say though, so in The Ambassador, it was oh my god, I can't think of her name.
Ellen Burstyn.
It was Ellen Burstyn who was what is it called? Infidelity?
Yeah. Yeah, she
Yeah,
was being unfaithful to her ambassador husband with like an antique store dealer or something, right?
Exactly. And I don't want to sound like a creep, but when I saw Anne Margaret in this, I was like, oh my God, I cannot wait to see the Ellen Burstyn scene in this.
And if you go back and listen to our other episode, you'll know what scene, you know what Phil's talking about here.
And I guess I was kind of shocked
Disappointed?
and disappointed that they did change who was the cheater in this. In this one, it's Roy Scheider who's cheating on Anne Margaret, which Roy Scheider, dude, you look like an everyday man, right? He's not a chud, but he's not like Robert Redford.
No, he's not like leading man hunk. I don't know. I don't think so anyway. Like,
If you're pulling Anne Margaret, what are you doing? What are you doing?
He must be making some serious bank or something.
I know, man. So, yeah. So, I guess 52 Pickup is essentially The Ambassador, a little bit different, but a whole lot better.
Yeah, I was actually kind of surprised at how, and this is why I asked the question about like which one was more faithful, because this movie, aside from there being sort of like there's a spouse being being unfaithful and that being kind of wrapped up in this like escalating blackmail plot, like aside from there being blackmail in both of these movies, there's like they're so different in setting and plot and character, just like everything is so different. This one is definitely a lot like tighter. There's not as much like weird other things like B and C plots going on in this one. It seems a lot more focused, which I quite enjoyed. A lot easier to follow.
I wasn't expecting that because as I messaged you this morning, I wasn't looking forward to this.
No.
I was like, oh my God, it's fucking 2 hours long.
Yeah, same here. Like, I as soon as I pulled it up on Tubi, which somehow my ad block actually got through the ads, which was nice. But yeah, I saw the run.
Fucking lucky bastard.
Didn't see those Pizza Hut ads this time. You're not gonna get me with that spicy lovers this time, assholes.
Oh my God. I can't. I forgot to write it down, but there was a fucking commercial that showed every time, and it wasn't a pizza commercial for me. I think it was like insurance or some shit.
Oh, that's the worst. At least show me something that I might actually buy, like a pizza, but it's always like a car commercial or like, detergent or some shit. But no, thankfully it's not. It doesn't always happen this way. Like usually with like Pluto or Tubi or any of those free services, I'll usually still get ads, but somehow they just didn't load this time. So everyone, load up a pie hole if you're feeling technical. But yeah, so as soon as I pulled up this movie, I saw the runtime. Like, yeah, and I saw your message. I was like, oh no, I was bracing for sort of like checking out halfway through. And honestly, like I said, like the first half was super slow, and I was doing what I usually do in those cases where I let the movie run. I don't pause it or like totally space out. I just start looking at things in the background. So we'll get into it. I noticed lots of like character actors and like weird little details in the background. So that's what I do. I space out and look at the oddities in the background.
And not to like, I guess, throw the baby out with the bathwater, but Anne Margaret is so underutilized in this film. She is
Yeah.
literally there just to be like Roy Scheider's cheating on you, and that's the crux of the story. I was
Yeah,
kind of disappointed by how they didn't allow her to do more.
she's basically just a victim in like multiple different ways.
Yeah.
She's the one who's being cheated on, and then later in the movie, spoilers, she gets kidnapped. So she's an actual victim, like a damsel in distress. She has zero agency in this whole movie, and really underutilized, which is a shame.
And when we get to that part, I've got a question to ask you.
Oh
But
boy.
52 Pickup is directed by John Frankenheimer, who is a very popular director. He did Birdman of Alcatraz, The Manchurian Candidate, which I think we've talked about before, about the mom incest subplot weirdness. The Island of Dr. Moreau, which is an infamous movie with Marlon Brando and Val Kilmer.
Yeah.
So very, very popular.
He's got a career. He's not some B tier, canon guy.
Which is shocking that they got dick pics of him and conned him into doing this movie.
We haven't talked about speaking of blackmail, geez, we haven't talked about our dick pic blackmail in quite a few episodes. I'm glad we're getting back to that.
It's interesting how they got John Frankenheimer, Anne Margaret, and Roy Scheider, who were all probably, John Frankenheimer and Roy Scheider definitely, this is probably near the apex of their careers, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting that they were able to afford these guys.
And we actually have we've got another get too behind the camera. I was like going to bring this up at the end, but this is a good segue to it. Like I noticed throughout the movie that the camera work was really good. Like there's lots of like nice dynamic shots. They've got like crane shots and aerial views, and just like the camera just moves around a lot, which is really nice. I was like, this has got to be someone. This is too good for like a cheap slap together canon crime movie. And wouldn't you know it, Phil? The cinematographer who shot this movie is a Paul Verhoeven regular. This guy shot RoboCop. He shot Total Recall. He shot Starship Troopers. He shot Hollow Man. This guy is an amazing cinematographer. What is he doing in 52 Pickup?
Academy Award nominated for Das Boot.
For Das Boot, yeah. He's a couple Wolfgang Peterson movies. He did Neverending Story also.
Yeah. He also did Showgirls, which you really can't, he did make the women look beautiful in that movie. That movie has a whole other bunch of problems with it.
But not the camera work. The camera work was spot on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird, right?
Jost, what was his name? Jost something. He's a German guy. Jost Volcano or something like that. But
yeah,
like top of his
name.
Yeah, I'm sure I just butchered it. Sorry to all the German speaking listeners out there. Like you said, there's a lot of like A-list talent both in front of and behind the camera in this one, and it's always, it will never not be weird when it shows up in a canon movie.
Exactly. We get the laziest intro credits. It's just text over black background. Did you see that obviously you saw Vanity in this, but Vanity is known as she works with Prince. She's like a pop music singer as well as actress.
Did she ever do solo albums, or was she always just like involved with Prince?
She had minor hit singles with Pretty Mess, Mechanical Emotion, and Undress, which I've never heard any of those. But apparently they were in the movie Action Jackson, which also stars Vanity and Carl Weathers.
That sounds like a surefire hit.
Have you ever seen Action Jackson?
I have not.
That's the movie where the quote is Carl Weathers. He's like, "How do you like your ribs?" And then he blows someone up.
What?
It's like this weird buddy cop action film. It's a Joel Silver movie. So it kind of, if you've seen a lot of Joel Silver movies, you kind of get what you're going for,
Yeah,
right?
I
The
guess.
Lethal Weapon, Predator, trying to be funny, but also action.
Yeah, you kind of seen one, you've seen them all. Although I won't put Predator in that class. Predator is in a class of its own, but
Hey, man, I love Joel Silver movies. I'll fucking watch them all day long. But right now, we're talking about 52 fucking pickup.
uh,
Exactly. You say, but it's better than The
oh,
Ambassador.
that's
Huh?
true.
So we open up and we get the scene of Roy Scheider with his beautiful wife, Anne Margaret. Everything seems all hunky dory. He's got a really cool fucking car.
Nice
Um,
house in
yeah.
Beverly Hills, I'm assuming.
Which immediately I was like, thank God this is not set in the Middle East like The Ambassador or some
Yeah.
weird setting, right? This is
So,
like something I can wrap my head around.
exactly. Not to say that movies set in that part of the world are bad inherently, but like it's a complication to our plot that we don't need in this movie.
Complication of political intrigue, and I don't
Yeah,
understand why these people hate each other.
exactly. Just give me just put it in LA, make it simple for us smooth-brained Americans.
Exactly. But we realize that Anne Margaret's character, she's going to be running for some kind of political office. They don't really say what, though.
No, I think a councilwoman, some local office, something like that.
Something, something low enough level to where I don't really get why Roy Scheider's being blackmailed beyond just making sure that his wife doesn't see that he's cheating on her, right? Like,
Yeah, it's not
she
like there's a
probably has
threat
no
to a.
influence.
Yeah, it's not like we're threatening like a like a high-profile presidential candidate or something. She's small potatoes, but whatever. It barely comes up as any kind of motivational factor in the movie, so I just kind of forgot about it.
Which I think is interesting because I thought that was going to be the motivational factor of the film. Like it's set up like almost immediately. She is running for a political party of some kind.
Yeah, yeah. You would think that would factor in more, but it didn't.
But we transition. Roy Scheider gets a phone call and he's told to go to a hotel. As he enters the room, he gets a gun put to his head and he's shown video of him schmoozing around with other women that aren't Anne Margaret.
Yeah, like a candid camera thing. He didn't clearly. It's this is the first of, as it turns out, several blackmail tapes. But yeah, that him fooling around with a. Is she a stripper?
A stripper,
I think
lady
escort.
of the night,
Yeah,
escort type lady. It's definitely. I find it odd, like this plot point, right? Where we're going to compare it to the Ambassador a lot. I feel because in the Ambassador, he's an ambassador. He holds ownership of something, but Roy Scheider's just kind of like a normal dude. How did these douchebags key in on Roy Scheider cheating on his wife?
okay. I was wondering about that too. The only thing that I could think of, and I might just be filling in plot points with things that I made up, but I think this guy, he's like a big shot engineer, and he makes a lot of money on like some kind of like materials patents. This was in the boring
Transparent
first half.
aluminum.
Transparent aluminum. It's, oh my god. Okay, I was gonna wait to say this, but I will say this now. Guess who shows up? I told you I was looking in the background for characters. Guess who shows up at the banquet scene later?
That's not James Doohan, is it?
Not James Doohan. It is the materials scientist that James Doohan sells transparent aluminum to in Star Trek
No
4.
fucking way.
I shit you not. He is sitting at the table at the banquet next to Roy Scheider.
Greg, are you telling me that 52 pickup in Star Trek 6, Star Trek 4,
Star Trek 4, Voyage
Voyage
Home.
Home are set in the same universe because that guy was manufacturing metals and like plastics
I
in
shit
that
you
movie as
not.
well.
I will go back and grab a screenshot of it for you. I could not believe my eyes. Like it was too weird that both he in Star Trek 4 and Roy Scheider in this movie are both sort of like materials engineers.
Yeah.
It's just too specific of a career path to have been a coincidence that they put this guy in the background. And he didn't even have a speaking line. It's so weird.
That is super weird. Super weird.
Transparent aluminum.
That's so anyways,
Anyways.
I guess these goobers found Roy Scheider because he's popular with the metal that he does, right?
Yeah,
He fuses like metal with titanium or something.
yeah, he owns a patent to some process, and they think, okay, this guy, he's some dweeby engineer. We can blackmail him easy.
Okay, I'll buy that. I'll buy that.
Yeah.
So they're showing him videotape of him being, a sneaky sneak. Immediately, like this is maybe 10 minutes into the film, so they get it going pretty quick, and that's also when we get our first butt shot. And I will say, I was like, interesting that they showed nudity this much in the film, but there's a lot of nudity in this movie. A lot.
There is. The lady that Roy Scheider is sort of cheating with, she's an escort or a stripper, in that industry, and not only that, but as it turns out later, like all of the goons who are doing the blackmailing are like greasy porno guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. It's
Except
like
one of them is John Glover, who isn't that greasy. He's kind of like, in a weird way, suave in this film. He has ownership of what he's doing.
Yeah. He plays it well. Of the three of them, that's for sure. But honestly, like you talk about the nudity, so that we see some ass shots in the blackmail tape that he's getting shown. But like throughout the whole movie, that whole idea of them being in the stripper prostitution industry, like that all just feels like an excuse to have TNA in the movie. Honestly, it doesn't really add anything.
That doesn't need it.
No, they could have / should have just been regular mafia guys.
Granted, the movie coming out in 1986, and there's a lot of big movies in 1986. There's no teenager in the world that's going to go say, let's watch the Roy Scheider film that doesn't involve a shark, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This is already angling towards an adult audience.
Like a grandpa audience.
Exactly. But grandma's not going to want to go see it if she hears that there's boobs in it. But of course, this is the 80s. I don't know. I don't remember how movie news got put around. Unless it's in a magazine. That's not like Entertainment Weekly is going to be like 52 pickups got tits.
That's got tits in it.
So
I don't know. It feels more gratuitous than it needed to be, but
1,000%.
Whatever. It's a canon movie.
But essentially, they're telling Roy Scheider, hey, you're going to either pay us a bunch of money or we're going to release the tape. Once you give us the money, we'll give you the tape.
Tape is yours.
And they're demanding $105,000 in order for them to get it. They're going to do it in payment installments of like $10,000, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny, goofy that they're blackmailing them, but they're being nice enough to set up a payment plan for them.
Yeah. $100,000, that's a lot of money. Well, okay, well, $10,000 a week will be reasonable. They're not unreasonable porno goons.
Roy Scheider goes home, and you can tell that he feels guilt for everything that's going on in his life as he's barely talking to Anne Margaret.
Yeah.
So what does he do? He goes out and he talks to like his buddy from work, right? They go out like into the desert or something. I'm kind of lost of like where this scene was supposed to be, because we're in California, like beautiful sunny California. Then all of a sudden we transition to essentially like Las Vegas desert.
Yeah, it's like out in the salt flats. It's like where they test those like rocket cars, because it's like a really huge and flat area.
Yeah.
But here, this is the only reason I know or remember that he's sort of like a hotshot like materials engineer, is because they're out here like this is how they make. I don't know why this is like I know this much about it. This is like so superfluous of a detail, but like they make this metal by taking it out to the desert, and then they like layer steel and titanium, and then they like sprinkle explosive over it, and then just like detonate it, and it fuses the metal.
Yeah.
But this all of that crap is just backdrop to shark guy talking to his like corporate lawyer or something, and like explaining his blackmail situation to him. All of this other stuff is happening in the background.
It's this mix of, I cheated on Anne Margaret. They got a videotape of me. Look at this explosion.
They got dick pics. Look at the explosion.
But then we transition to the banquet that Anne Margaret's having, where she's announcing her run for candidacy for city council person.
Whatever, yeah.
And they're introducing the district attorney, but it's not Harvey Dent, so no one really gives a fuck.
No one gives a shit.
And the fact that this part of the movie doesn't play any factor into the overall plot of the entire movie is, again, like, why are we watching this?
That's
This
why I
movie,
was looking at dudes in the background, like Mr. Transparent Aluminum.
if you trimmed 20 minutes off of this movie, it'd be so much tighter and it'd be so much better.
Yeah, really, and again, just in the first half, like trim all the fat out of the first half, and then let the second half play exactly as it was.
Sure.
Like once getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but like once he starts playing the goons off each other, that's when it really picks up. Trim all this background shit way out. He just established that he and Anne Margaret, they're married. If things are kind of cooling off, it's not the best marriage, but it's not broken either. Show him the blackmail tape, show him being weird around the wife, and then it cut to the halfway mark. Like, you could get like 20 minutes out of this movie.
Oh, definitely, for sure. And that's exactly what happens in the next scene. Roy Scheider confesses that he met a younger lady to Anne Margaret. And of course, she takes offense to it because the woman that Roy Scheider was cheating on was like 20 years old or 21 years old, right? And that's kind of like, they had this weird thing where Anne Margaret was like, were you role-playing as her daddy? And Roy Scheider was like, yeah, kind of.
Maybe a little bit.
It's just like, what?
Ew. Jaws guy, no.
We didn't have that in The Ambassador. It was one of those things where, I forgot the actor's name, but he kind of just owned it. He was like, okay, yeah, Ellen Burstyn, you cheated on me. Like, let's get over this. And together, we will solve the issue of your boob pics getting leaked.
Your titty pics. Yeah, it's the marriage dynamic is definitely much different here. Like I said, like, it was clear they were clearly already sort of like out of love at that point, and then like this just kind of like added fuel to that fire. But they were much more rock solid in The Ambassador. Like, and he totally just forgave her for that.
Yeah.
In The Ambassador.
Anne Margaret's like, get the fuck out of the house.
Yeah, like rightfully so. Like, throws his ass out immediately.
But the issue is, after that, Anne Margaret kind of disappears for a good majority of this movie.
Yeah, not until she becomes another victim later on. But she just kind of... He occasionally goes back and forth at the house, and she gets pissed off at him showing up, but that's about it.
She's like, there's no sharks here. Get out. I will say, on Tubi, where I watched this, the byline for the film is the wealthy husband of an aspiring politician gets caught in a compromising position with a young girl. I read this as the movie was loading up this morning, and I wake up pretty early. I was watching this at like 5:30 or something. When I read that, I was like, holy shit, we're going to see Anne Margaret being lesbians with someone. Because I read that as a wealthy husband and the aspiring politician, like, as she gets caught with a young girl. And I was like, holy shit.
This movie's progressive as fuck.
Exactly. And then in the beginning, when they were setting everything up, Anne Margaret, as she walks into the politician office, there was like a younger woman there. And I was like, oh my God, what a movie. But no, none of that happens.
Oh, bummer. Can we pause and just admire the fact that, Phil, you had to be the only asshole in the world watching 52 Pickup at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday.
Fucking Tubi's server is going, who the fuck is accessing this movie?
Instead of ads, like they like target the ads for like self-help and like, Phil, are you all right?
You know, Anne Margaret, she doesn't... Ellen Burstyn at least shows.
Hey, do you want to watch a better movie? Like... Are you all right, dude?
It's definitely weird. It's definitely weird. I don't know. I would like to see the analytics on 52 Pickup.
I'll say, yeah, you blew that analytical model out of the water with your random 6 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday viewing. It's for sure.
If Tubi was basing purchasing movies to show off of analytics, Roy Scheider and Anne Margaret definitely spiked today.
Two views in one day. Oh my God.
We need to buy Jaws 4 again. But Roy Scheider's barely in that. He's still in it, though. It's a flashback. It still counts.
It counts. These idiots will watch it.
Exactly. But we transition now to like the sleazy guy's house. And the sleazy guy now has his mask off when we all realize that it's John Glover.
Yeah.
John Glover, we all know as the guy who owns the building in Gremlins 2. Daniel Clamp.
Ah, yes.
Yes, the Gremlins 2. Also Scrooged. He's the kind of like the nerdy guy in Scrooged. And then he was also in Batman and Robin.
Yeah,
You remember that?
I I knew that this is definitely a that guy like character actor. He's a very distinctive look, very distinctive like voice, the way he talks too. For the life of me, I could not place him in anything else. But now
Really?
now I remember having said those things.
He did the voice of the Riddler in the Batman animated series. And he was on the Star Trek Deep Space Nine episode Invasive Procedures.
Wait,
He played Verid.
invasive procedures. Which one was that? I don't remember.
It's
But
the
of course,
24th episode of the American syndicated science fiction television series Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
so that would have been a
During a
season 1.
plasma storm, Deep Space Nine is evacuated with only a skeleton crew remaining behind to maintain the station until the events passes. It's season 2, episode 4.
Oh, okay, season 2. Huh. I should have known that this guy would have had a Star Trek credit. He was a character actor, active in the late 80s, early 90s. He's bound to be in a Star Trek episode or X-Files.
Oh,
Probably
definitely.
both.
You know what? I'm surprised that he wasn't in an X-Files. This
Yeah.
guy definitely has that like vibe. Again, character actor vibe. So
Yeah, he could definitely play a good X-Files weirdo, that's for sure. Some kind of UFO idiot.
but he's kind of doing like this Girls Gone Wild type video in his house with just like naked women. And he's like, show me your boobs. And they're all showing their boobs and stuff. I don't know. It's, again,
Speaking of background characters in this scene, guess who else shows up in that weird Girls Gone Wild house? Ron Jeremy.
no way.
I shit you not. He's in the hot tub. You get like 10 frames of his face. He's in the hot tub when they're videotaping them.
Oh my God. Yeah, look at that. He is on the cast list. So weird when Ron Jeremy shows up in films.
Right? And he shows up in a lot of movies around this period. I don't know why. Do people just watch a lot of porno in LA and they're just like, they think Ron Jeremy's a funny guy and they just bring him around?
I don't know, but looking at his filmography, he's probably most famous for me being guy behind the barricade in Ghostbusters, 52 Pickup, The Godfather Part 3, which, holy shit, I don't remember that, but apparently he's in there.
It's probably the same thing where he's just like, the camera pans across a crowd and he's just sitting in the crowd somewhere
Yeah, I don't know. That's
with
weird.
his dick out.
That's weird. But then we
Yeah,
meet the other
knew?
two bad guys who... One, he looks like a used car salesman. He's like this white guy. He's got a comb over. He's always
Leo.
kind of on the edge. Yeah, he looks like he smells. And then the other guy is I guess he kind of looks like a frazzled, just like druggy user, right?
Yeah, he's the most sort of like strung out looking guy, and he's definitely the most like unhinged. He's like their murderer, basically. Like he's the enforcer of this group. He's definitely not the brains of the operation, but he's always the one who's like cleaning guns and looks like he's like about to he's one pin drop away from shooting up the place.
Now, a lot of people probably don't know who Clarence Williams III is, and that he's the enforcer, Bobby Shy, in this film. But you might know him from Half Baked. He's Samson, the guy who sells the drugs in the movie.
Okay, that
Samson!
tracks.
So
Wow.
I don't know, kind of interesting. And then he's done a whole bunch of shit Hallmark movies.
Oh no.
A fuck ton of them.
But I mean, overall, I have to say, like, of all I like this goon squad. Throughout the whole movie, they're just different enough, and they play off each other enough to be interesting. Like Mr. Glover, he's sort of like the brains of the operation. He's kind of psychopathic, but he still can like keep it together to like come up with a scheme. Leo is just this like pathetic weasel of a guy. He's like the most. I think he owns like a strip club or something.
Porno theater.
Porno theater, yeah. And then enforcer guy, like he's sort of the muscle, like, and he's got this like crazy eyed like aspect to him that is like really perfect. I don't know. I like normally the goons in these crime movies are sort of forgettable, just generic assholes, but they've got some like interesting enough things going on in their character.
And I'm surprised, looking at their filmographies, that they don't show up again in another canon film. These guys look like they're the type that would show up again.
Yeah, it's a shame.
But yeah, they're all kind of talking at the house party about boobs and obviously Roy Scheider and the blackmail that they're doing on him and how they think that they're going to come out on top, right? Everything at this point is coming up Millhouse for them.
Everything's coming up Millhouse. Yeah, they think this thing's going off without a hitch. They scare the shit out of him. He's definitely going to pay. No problem.
Roy Scheider, they transition over to Roy Scheider. He gets tickets to a Dodgers game. And again, it's another moment scene where they're kind of just, again, talking about the issue at hand, right? But unbeknownst to Roy Scheider, the enforcer character shows up and he pays off a peanut vendor to get the money from Roy Scheider, right? This is like the drop-off point.
Yeah, that's the first installment, the first 10 grand installment, and they're doing the handoff here at the baseball game, and they pass it off to the peanut or hot dog vendor. But guess who the hot dog vendor is?
Oh my God, Craig!
I shit you not. That is Carbone from Goodfellas.
What?
And I think we might recognize him from he was the brother-in-law in Wedding Singers.
What? Oh my God, it is.
Yeah.
He's got the hair.
He's got the hair. It was the hair. He's got the same hairdo in all of the above, and you spot him a mile away. But yeah, that's him. Carbone.
The handoff is complete and successful. Unfortunately, the money inside the envelope isn't real, and it says something like "fuck off" or something like that.
Go fuck yourself, something like that. Basically, just like, because at this point, Roy Scheider, he's like, I'm not going to let them win. He just told his wife straight out, so they don't blackmail him anymore. And then he just basically told the blackmailers to go fuck themselves. But little did he know, shit was going to hit the fan.
So now the whole point of the movie is for us to care that Roy Scheider pays off these people so Anne Margaret's unknown political career can go off successfully.
Successfully.
Got boobs on the mind.
Something.
But again, while the movie again is good, because I don't know what Anne Margaret's doing, I don't fucking care, right?
No. Like at this point, you she's not really at risk. Like, she's still pretty much out of the picture at this point. Before they try to do anything with her, instead they pivot to okay, well, we can't let this idiot get the best of us. We're gonna go, and they go take it out on the 22-year-old girl who he was cheating with, right? That's how what this happens at this point, or is that later?
The next part is John Glover. That kind of ties up. John Glover goes to Anne Margaret and Roy Scheider's house, and he steals a gun and some of Roy Scheider's clothes.
That's right.
And John Glover and Anne Margaret kind of have a minor confrontation. John Glover's like, "Oh, I'm a salesman. I just entered your house," and she's like, "Get the fuck out!" And he leaves, right? But then later on, we find out that he stole these items for Roy Scheider because he kills the woman that Roy Scheider was cheating on Anne Margaret with. So now, not only does he own money, he is now set up for a potential murder rap because they used his gun, and his clothes is with the murdered woman.
Right. It's like the super elaborate frame up. And I wanted to ask you about it because they it's really detailed, like all of the evidence that they plant. So they tie up the girl, they put his gun in a vise, and they pull the trigger with a string. But they put his sport coat underneath the barrel so that there's a gunpowder residue that gets on there, I'm assuming.
Yep.
But what I didn't understand was when they tied up the girl, they strapped a piece of wood in front of her chest and then shot her through the wood.
Dude, I don't understand that either. Maybe to stop blood splatter?
I guess. Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe stopping the blood splatter. I didn't think about that. My thought was maybe to insinuate that like he shot her through a wall or something to like set
Maybe.
up. I honestly haven't. Your sounds much more plausible than mine.
I think to stop blood splatter. I
Yeah.
thought you were going to ask why they made her go topless for the scene.
Oh, because it's a canon movie and it's
They
sleazy as
strap
shit.
this woman into a chair onto a post, and then they rip her shirt off just to shoot her.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the part that I was like, I don't get why they needed to show her boobies, but
Because
they did.
Yeah, it's sleazy. The only in movie excuse I could think of was they were trying to frame it up as like a rape murder, like
Like
he
a
was
sex
pissed.
thing. Sex
Yeah,
crime.
yeah, like he was pissed off that she was. I don't know. He was just taking advantage of her and killed her, and when they were having sex or something. I don't know. That's I'm sure like a hand wavy thing, but really we know that it was just a sleazy canon move because they wanted to put more boobs in the movie.
They needed more boobs in a movie filled with nudity.
Director's
this
like,
was-
it's been 20 minutes since we've seen some boobs.
If this was like a Joe Bob Briggs thing, I don't know what the boob count would be on this.
Uncountable.
It's gotta be in the 20s. It's super weird.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
Roy Scheider, he leaves after he's shown the videotape. Oh, so Roy Scheider shows up to a place where John Glover told him to go. He sees the tape of the woman being murdered. He realizes the place that they're at is the scene of the murder as well. And then he drives off into the California hills and throws his coat on the ground and gets frustrated. The next day, he shows back up to his house and he talks to Anne Margaret about how John Glover was in their home and that there is now a plot, a conspiracy that he has committed murder.
And she is like, why are you bringing me into this? She's
Exactly.
like, she's like, why are you telling me all this? Get the fuck out.
Exactly. She's like, I'm perfect cougar age right now. I don't need to deal with this.
I'm Aunt fucking Margaret.
Exactly. A man fucking Margaret. That is the moment though. The turning point of the film. The 45-minute mark. In those 45 minutes, there is 20 minutes of film you can get rid of. The
Yep.
next 60 minutes do not touch because now Roy Scheider has turned from normal dude to like I'm gonna
Master
fucking kill
schemer.
you. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. He is a diabolical man who is able to. He's like a Svengali, right? He's pulling the strings from beyond. And
Yeah.
I think it would have been more interesting if they mess with Roy Scheider, kind of like a John Wick situation, where they didn't realize who they were messing with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like set him up earlier in the movie to be capable of the sort of scheming that we see now as being this
Exactly.
sort of like maybe he was a, I don't know, retired, I don't know,
Navy
CIA,
SEAL.
Navy SEAL, like
CIA.
something. Yeah, someone super cunning, and then he got a patent, and then he's like making an honest, nonviolent living, but he's still like super badass and super smart and can totally take advantage of these porno goons. Like, set that up ahead of time. I mean, it's still cool, but it would have been even more satisfying if, like you said, it was like a John Wick situation where, like, yeah, they didn't know who they were messing with.
Exactly. And I think we talked about this in The Ambassador. But really, does this kind of blackmail even matter anymore? Do people honestly care about, like, oh, like you have boob pics that someone can see? Like,
Yeah,
I think this is so passé now.
yeah, it definitely loses a little bit of its bite in a post like internet, sexting age, right?
Yeah.
Where that stuff is kind of all out there already, so it's not
This
quite
would
as
have-
risky.
Yeah, exactly. It's not back in the day in the 80s and 90s, this would legitimately
Major
destroy
scandal.
careers. But nowadays, it would probably just be like, I mean, fucking Captain America tweeted out his dick accidentally. His dick pic is out there, legitimately.
Oh, wait. What? Really?
You didn't know that? Chris Evans, it was during the pandemic, and I think it was around the election time, and he accidentally tweeted out his wiener, and then obviously everyone downloaded it and saved it. He deleted it, but he owned it. He was like, okay, now that I have your attention, go ahead and vote for Joe Biden. But yeah, he tweeted out his dick, and he's still fucking Captain America. Like, Disney
Class
didn't
act.
do shit, right? So it just kind of shows you that this stuff doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, exactly. If at worst, it's bad PR for like 24, 48 hours, and then people will, move on to something else.
But if you're a normie like Roy Scheider, it means absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, no one gives a shit. So yeah, that's a good point, and I didn't think about that until you mentioned it. That like this whole the risk level for the characters in this would not be as high as it is if this were made in 2020, 2022.
Exactly. If it was 2022, the movie would end in 10 minutes when it's like, okay, I just like put it on Reddit. Now I own this, and you can't blackmail me for it.
Get fucked.
Exactly. So Roy Scheider has now turned into a Billy Badass, and he goes to the he works with Anne Margaret to get a name from the politician that she's running with, the district attorney.
Yeah, and it's Leo first, right?
Yep, it's okay. Leo, the comb-over used car salesman.
The pathetic one.
Exactly. Roy Scheider shows up to his porno theater, strip club, extravaganza, and he's looking for information. I will say Leo does a really great job of acting, because when he sees Roy Scheider, you can see like the fear in him.
He craps his pants immediately. Like, when I say he's pathetic, like that's a testament to the acting talent of this guy. Like he plays this pathetic, like sleazy porno salesman so well. It's amazing.
So Roy Scheider, there was a couple times earlier in the movie where Roy Scheider, as he's talking about the woman that he's cheating with, who's also a stripper, he does mention a black woman that he also liked. Turns out that the black woman that he liked was Vanity.
It's Vanity, yeah.
He starts he pays money to take nude pictures of Vanity in the back of this porno theater. Again, really convoluted, but it's all to get to the point where Roy Scheider and Vanity can talk about the woman who's been murdered and try to get more information about who she knows and does she know any creepy people, which Vanity eventually tells Roy Scheider about Rainy, right? She's like, I can't tell you his name directly, so I'm gonna ask you questions like wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
What's the weather like when you work? When you bring your umbrella with you? Rainy.
And she's like, almost. John Glover's name is Alan Raimi. Again, like, I get it. I get like the Batman. I connected the dots to these things. But it's so weird that she's like, I won't tell you. That way I can say that I didn't. Just say that you didn't. Like, cut the shit.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you're going to fucking lie anyway. Like, it's not like she's taking a polygraph test. I mean, where, like, that kind of nuance would really matter. And as it turns out, it doesn't fucking matter because, spoiler, later in the movie, she's practically getting, like, smothered by her psycho boyfriend when he thinks that she talked and doesn't believe her.
Exactly. And Vanity, very beautiful woman. There is nothing erotic about this scene where she's nude, like putting her legs up in the air and like twirling around and posing seductively for Roy Scheider. Like,
it's just kind of awkward.
Exactly. It's nothing but awkward.
Was that a thing in the 80s? Like when like porno was really huge on like 42nd Street, like this whole concept of you paying to go into a private room with a Polaroid to take photos of a stripper that you can take home. I don't understand that. Was that a thing?
I could see the allurement of it. Kind of like, what do they call it? Voyeurism and stuff, right?
Yeah,
where
I guess.
Like it's probably the feeling of doing something wrong. But like it's not really that wrong.
No, it seems kind of vanilla almost. Like,
yeah.
And what's even weirder is that's like the only thing that this establishment does. It's not like a normal strip club where they also do this weird photo thing behind in the private rooms for a little extra. Like the whole thing is just this.
Exactly.
How do they?
That's the weird part.
Yeah, it just seems too weird that they would be. I don't know. I'm thinking about this weird porno racket too much, but
you think that you would go to the strip club, you see the woman that you like, and then you go, I will pay money to take photos with your Polaroid.
To do extra, yeah.
Exactly. But I think the
don't
whole
know.
Polaroid setup is for when Roy Scheider and Vanity leave, he takes a photo of Leo. So now he has a photo of one of the conspirators, right? And that
Yeah.
plays as somewhat of a plot point later on.
Yeah,
Not
that's
a
a good
huge,
point.
because he shows it to Anne Margaret, and he's like, "Was this the guy that showed up?" And she was like, "No, it's a younger, more handsome guy."
Oh, poor Leo. She's like, nah, that guy's a chud.
Exactly. But Roy Scheider finds Alan Ramey, through Anne Margaret. Again, she uses like her connections with the DA. You don't see any of this action happen. It's almost like Anne Margaret's just exposition grandpa, where she's like, by the way, the next person that you need to see, Roy Scheider, he's here. And then Roy Scheider leaves to go see him.
Yeah,
Right?
she's like the NPC in Skyrim that he's got to keep going back to like keep the quest line going.
Exactly. Exactly. You don't see any of the behind the scenes stuff. But Roy
No.
Scheider goes to the porno theater and he meets John Glover, where they have a confrontation because Roy Scheider knows that he is one of the guys who's blackmailing him. Obviously, John Glover realizes that he's talking to the guy that he's blackmailing, but he's not owning up to it. Roy Scheider's like, "Is this you?" And John Glover, so amazing. He's like, "I don't know. Is it?
Is it?
Like he does.
If you're
such a
sure,
good
you can give me
job
the
in this
money."
scene being so schmarmy and like, you know, a
Yeah, he's like,
douchebag.
yeah, he's like he strikes that balance of like confidence, but also kind of like he's kind of like a scared wiener guy too. Like he's kind of caught off guard by this whole situation. It's an interesting nuance that you wouldn't think that you would get in a movie like this.
Good job. He is such a wiener, but he's also he's the brains, right? He
Yeah.
is not the muscle. That's why he has the other guy.
Yeah.
Because John Glover knows that he is not capable of a physical fight. But so
we
Roy
get
Scheider. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, but we get a little bit of a fight here, and this is where my quote of the week comes in. So
Yes.
like, so yeah, Glover, he's like, you can give me the money if you think if you really think it's me, and he's like, cut the shit, I know it's you. He's like, okay, fine, it's me, give me the money, and then Roy Scheider starts like slapping him in the face with the wad of cash, and
Yes.
and Roy Scheider says something about your face makes me want to slap the shit out of it.
I want to hear you say it. All right, yeah, I'm the guy. Give me the money. Hey, don't touch me! Something about your face makes me want to slap the shit out of it.
It's so good.
It's so good. Of any line in the movie, this is the one that got like a laugh out of me because it was like, but not because I was laughing at the movie, but I was like you also as the audience want to slap this character because he's such a greasy asshole.
Oh,
It's
100%. John Glover is such a douche in it. He definitely has a punchable face.
Definitely slappable.
So Roy Scheider sets up John Glover to go meet him at the metal factory that Roy Scheider owns. Also, I just want to comment on the music that Roy Scheider and Anne Margaret listened to in this movie, because that lost a whole half star for me. They listen to like fucking jazz and John Sousa Phillips like it's popular.
It's like experimental jazz too, where there's like no. I'm not some jazz expert, but it's like
The fact that you said experimental jazz means you're 1,000% more of an expert than I am.
it's there's jazz from like the 30s that's sort of like big bandy, and then there's like the experimental stuff that gets really weird from the 60s. I don't know.
Well,
It's
anyways,
weird, whatever it is.
Yeah, the music sucks, and John Glover says, "Wow, your speakers
Wow,
are
this music
shit."
sucks.
So plot point,
Wink, wink.
smack, smack. Your speakers suck. So, anyways, Roy Scheider, he brings him into the factory, and he's like, "Take a look at the books." And Roy Scheider quickly realizes that, or not Roy Scheider, John Glover quickly realizes that Roy Scheider doesn't make a lot of money. He makes like
No.
52 grand a year, which probably in the 1980s is still very good.
Yeah, it's not bad, but
But
he's not not like
rolling
the
in
rich. Yeah, exactly. He's not the rich Mark that they thought he was. Like I think they make a point to say that Uncle Sam is taking a pretty healthy chunk of all of the royalties he's getting for the patent.
Exactly. $52,000 in today's money would be $137,000 a year, which,
Good
think
money.
of it, good money, but he lives in California. He lives, so cost of
True.
living is drastically different where he's at as opposed to everywhere else in the world.
Yeah. Oh, damn. Something just is that why the title of this movie is 52 Pickup? Because there's $52,000 is at play?
I think also because there's going to be 52 drop-offs, right? They're like, you'll do payments once a week for the entire year, or 52 weeks in a year.
Okay.
I think it's both. I think it's because they end up we're kind of John Glover comes to the conclusion at the end of the scene that Roy Scheider can afford $52,000 and that he can pay him $1,000 a week. Right? So 52,000, 52 pickup.
Yeah, I'm an idiot. I like at the end I even wrote my notes as like, why is this movie called 52 Pickup? I think we see a deck of cards, like, and Margaret's playing solitaire in a bed at some point, but like, my brain was too smooth. I couldn't put it together, and it just clicked.
If this was a lesser movie, Roy Scheider at the end would have like unfurled the cards at John Glover, and he had been like, "Pick up, bitch," and then shot him.
some lazy, stupid one-liner attempt. Yeah, you're right.
If it was a Bronson film,
52
a deck of
Pickup,
cards would have
bitch.
played into it. The deck of cards would have had like razors on the edge of them, and he's just throwing them at him, like cutting them.
Yeah, but it's like Groundhog Day where you see him practicing throwing cards into a hat earlier in the movie.
Oh my god, that's the 52 pickup I want to see.
52 Pickup.
Meanwhile, at the Goon Ranch, John Glover, Leo, and the Muscle, they're all talking to each other, and Leo's breaking down because they all realize this isn't the rich person they were looking for.
Yeah, and he knows who they are now.
Exactly. So John Glover comes to the conclusion that they kind of just need to cut bait, let things cool down, and in quotes, clean everything up, which means we have to kill Roy Scheider and Anne Margaret.
I said wink, wink,
Right.
murder time. They like, Crazy Eyes enforcer guy is like, what's in it for me? And I forget what he says, but
Murder's in it for you.
murder's in it for you. You're right. But at this point, you can kind of see that like, because Glover doesn't say that 52 grand specifically. Like, I think he's still giving them under the keeping them his other goon friends under the impression that there's still like 100K plus in the mix. So like you can kind of see that John Cassavetes, or yeah, why do I keep saying John Cassavetes? Roy Scheider, they kind of look alike. Like they're kind of he's like trying to play the goons off of one another, like getting them to suspect one another, which is kind of entertaining.
Get them to suspect one of each other, and John Glover's trying to eliminate one of them. And I don't think he really cares who. Right? He just
Right.
wants more money out of the situation because John Glover realizes it's not as much money. And if I have one less accomplice, that means I get more money in the end.
Right. Classic
So-
bank robber backstabbing each other scenario.
Exactly. So the Muscle goes to Vanity's house where he interrogates her and strangles her with a stuffed teddy bear, a oversized stuffed teddy bear.
Yeah.
And you sent me this really creepy screenshot of like the teddy bear in the background, just kind of
Yeah.
like chilling.
Yeah, like earlier in the movie when Roy Scheider's over there like trying to like get information from her, like they're schmoozing in the living room, and then you see like in the background, like in the bedroom, the stuffed animal is sort of like it's like facing the camera and staring at you. It's the creepiest fucking thing ever, and it's like for like 30 seconds this thing is staring at you. You can't miss it.
It's weird, but the Muscle comes to realize that Vanity didn't say anything to anyone, right? Like she didn't say anything, and he's like, "You better hope to God you didn't, because if you did, I'm gonna come back and kill you."
Pow pow.
Yeah. again, like a very convoluted way of like getting to the point of, yeah, she didn't say anything. We cut to Roy Scheider working on his car. Now, Greg, not to ruin the ending, but is this the moment where he does the thing, where he sets up his car to do the thing?
That I think so. I think that's what they meant it to be, but it was super not obvious. Like I don't know.
Looks
I
like
feel
he's just changing spark plugs.
He looks like he's just changing the plugs. But the problem is like they couldn't have shown us that without kind of ruining the twist at the end. And I think that's probably why. I think it was meant the way that it was in the movie, where like we realize after the fact that is what he was doing, but it wasn't obvious at the time.
Yeah, not at all. But Roy
Wink,
Scheider
wink.
and Margaret, they fall asleep only to realize that the muscle has infiltrated their house. Roy Scheider easily dispatches him, like, despite this guy being maybe like 2 decades younger than Roy Scheider.
And like 30 pounds heavier of muscle, like just a bigger dude. But and yeah, like they wrestle around the house a little bit. They go outside. I think they like fall into a fountain, and then Roy Scheider managed to get this guy's gun out of his holster and is pointing and like holding him there to get, pump him for information. Or I guess not so much pump him for information, but I think he's still planting seeds of like dissension in the goons, right?
He's pumping disinformation.
Pumping
into them.
There we go.
And Margaret takes a photo of him. He's like, now look, I got a photo of you. And he's like, I was going to pay you guys $52,000. And that's when the muscle goes, what are you talking about?
Wait, what? Yeah.
They weren't saying anything about that. They said that you didn't have like any money and that you owed it all to the government. And that's when it starts clicking in his head that John Glover is not being honest.
Right. Trying to pull the wool over his eyes to keep all the money for himself. Clever little scheme. Again, I really wish that they'd set him up to be capable of this kind of like, playing them off of each other kind of scheme, but it's pretty effective.
So we cut back to John Glover. He's shooting porno in his porno palace.
In his banana hammock.
Yeah, exactly. But the muscle shows up and he confronts John Glover. Unfortunately, because he is the muscle, he's also dumb. And John Glover is able to dupe him into still being on his side. And he's like, hey, if we just kill the other guy, we'll split the $52,000. And he's like, yeah, that makes sense. Right? It's a pretty easy transition for him.
Yeah, like it took nothing to convince him that, like, okay, fine, you got me, but I'll cut you in. We just have to get rid of Leo and we can split it 50-50. Like, classic goon mistake. What makes you think, if he's willing to kill Leo to take his share, what makes you think that he's not going to do the same thing to you? Which, spoilers, is exactly what fucking happens.
Exactly. Exactly.
Idiot.
Roy Scheider meets back up with Leo, and Leo spills the beans on, like, everything. He goes,
yeah,
we've already dumped a dead body. There's no way that they're going to be able to find her. She's in the river.
They got nothing.
They got nothing on you. Like, all that shit is gone. And essentially, the scene kind of reminded me of Always Sunny when Max spilled all the information. He's like, how much money are you going to give me for that? And it's like, well, you've already told me everything. I don't need to give you anything now. And that's how Roy Scheider is.
Phil, I'm playing both sides, so I always come out on top.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's all I could think of. You're playing both sides, asshole.
That's all I could think of this scene is like Leo gave away all of his chips, and now Roy Scheider has no reason to protect him, and Leo now knows I'm a marked man.
Yeah. And again, like, I gotta give credit to the actor who played Leo. Like, this scene especially, he's so pathetic. Like, he's like crying and he's like a nervous wreck. And like the performance here is just really, really good. Like, you definitely believe this guy is like scared out of his mind. That's probably why he's being so stupid with the information, but really, really, really well done performance.
Oh, for sure. Leo has come to the conclusion that he needs to get the fuck out of town. So he goes to his place of work to wrap things up. Meanwhile, though, John Glover shows up to Anne Margaret's place and he kidnaps her.
Out of the pool.
And there's this really weird scene coming up, Greg, where John Glover injects her with heroin, right?
Oh yeah, I
Or
forgot
some
about
kind of
that.
a drug.
It was like it had to be heroin or something like that. It was really kind of gross looking, but yeah, well,
This is an 80s thing because they do this in Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, where they inject the Rennie with heroin or something like that in a back alley.
oh, don't they do something similar in Executioner 2?
I
Where the
believe so.
where
Yeah.
they like kidnap that girl and they like basically like forced drug addiction or something like that.
Yeah. They
Huh.
do. This is like a very 80s thing.
80s thing. Yeah.
As far as I know, people who do drugs don't willingly give up their drugs like that, right? That they're called addicts for a reason.
Yeah, you would think. So like I totally forgot about that scene until you mentioned it. Like, what was he trying to get her addicted, or was he trying
Calm
to
her
just like
down because she
to
was like
calm her
freaking
down?
out and
Yeah.
she was fighting back. But now this is where my question to you comes in. As
Okay.
he injects her, she obviously cools off.
Yeah.
And then he starts stripping down
Yeah. Yeah, he does.
because John Glover at the end of the movie makes a comment that even though Anne Margaret's old, she's still like good in all the right spots.
Ugh. Yeah, I had a feeling you were gonna ask me about that. I was wondering about that too, because I mean, did he rape her? Did he rape Anne Margaret?
That's what I'm
off camera.
that's what I'm like putting together, and it's such a weird thing. Why?
I mean,
Why do we have that in a movie where we have gratuitous nudity and all this other stuff? Why do we need to have an implied rape scene that plays no bearing into the overall plot of the film?
yeah, I mean, she was already kidnapped. I don't know. It seemed like it was like insult to injury. Like at best, it was just kind of superfluous, but at worst, it was just like more exploitative than it needed to be. I don't know. I guess I'll throw the movie a bone, and at least they didn't put it on camera.
Oh,
Could have been worse.
100%. Oh, 100%.
We got low expectations, folks. Low
Exactly.
expectations.
Meanwhile, Roy Scheider confronts his buddy from earlier in the film, and he's like, "Yeah, they kidnapped my wife. I've got to do something about this." And then we cut to Lou at his sex club area, and he's packing up shop, getting ready to get the fuck out. Is the guy that he's with, because he's with like a younger guy, is this an implied like homosexual relationship between these two?
I don't know.
Because
I kind of got that vibe because he was like, "We're gonna get out of here together," and he was kind of like holding the guy's hand. Like it was very much like what you would say to a spouse or a girl, like a significant other, as you're like they don't understand what's going on, but you're like, "We got to get out of town. Like it's you and me." You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
It's the way that he delivered it. I kind of got that vibe. Yeah, but it's not really
That's pretty
talked
cool.
about.
They don't go far enough with it, I think. And I think
Yeah.
it's really cool that they have something like this in a movie set in the 80s. And that despite the fact that Leo is a bad guy, that this characterization of him isn't, like a derogatory one, where they usually would be using the F word to describe him in the 80s.
Oh yeah, it could have been like the last scene. Like it could have been way worse. They were actually kind of tasteful about it, and they kept it kind of subtext where it was not. It was just kind of like character detail and not like a plot point.
Exactly. But as they're packing up, the muscle enters, and he's like, the muscle's kind of playing with him, and he's like, "Don't worry, I'm not going to do anything to you. Like, we're going to go get John Glover, and everything's going to be fine." And as he leaves, he kills them both through the window.
Yeah, it actually I got a little bit of a surprise out of me. I wasn't sure where they were going. I should have known that they were going to kill Leo, but I wasn't expecting it to happen that way. Because then, like, he walks out the front door, and the younger clerk who he was going to escape with, he's standing in front of the window, and then all of a sudden the squibs on his chest start blasting, and the glass breaks. Like, oh wow, it was kind of
Exactly.
cool.
It definitely looked really cool. But yeah, so Roy Scheider, he has to do something. He has to get his wife back, and John Glover kind of sets up a meet point for them to be at, which is like in the docks somewhere of California, right?
Yeah, some industrial district where they're going to do like a hostage swap basically, where he's going to bring the money, and I think And this is a big plot point. Like he even throws in his car to sweeten the deal
Exactly.
and just give me the wife back.
Exactly. So the Muscle and Vanity show up to the point because, obviously they're all on a team together. John Glover, out of nowhere, kills the Muscle.
Yeah, falls right down the stairs, and then Vanity suddenly loses the ability to drive because she tries to do like an 80-point turn to like get out of this area to like drive away.
More like 180-point turn.
Yeah.
I have, like you said, I have no fucking clue what she's doing right now.
I don't know. She's just like back. She's like forward and reversing back and forth into like big steel beams until then she just kind of gets shot.
Yeah. In a very unceremonious fashion. She just gets
Executed.
shot, and that's it for Vanity in this film. But then Roy Scheider shows up, and there's like a little bit of back and forth. Nothing terrible. And then there's like a short, I wouldn't even call it a chase scene. There's just a scene in which Roy Scheider is aggressively driving his car to the meet point with John Glover and Anne Margaret, right? Mm-hmm. And the exchange happens. Roy Scheider gives the money and the car. He gets Anne Margaret. John Glover gets into the car, and before he does, he's like, "Hey, did you fix the radio?" And Roy Scheider's like, "Yep, it's all fixed, ready to go." And as John Glover gets into the car, all of a sudden, the doors lock themselves.
Automatically.
The radio, the tape starts playing, and it's Roy Scheider, and essentially he's like, "You're about to blow up, motherfucker." And then John Glover starts freaking out. The car blows up. Roy Scheider and Anne Margaret limp off of the bridge.
Into the sunset.
That's 52 pickup.
That's how we ended. Bad guy got his comeuppance with a car explosion that was, I actually thought was kind of a neat twist. They, like we said, like they saw him working on the car throughout the whole movie, so they sort of set it up. Yeah, not a bad ending to a surprisingly not a bad movie, all things considered.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue with the film is the 20 minutes in the beginning that you can kind of figure out where to get rid of it. Mm-hmm. And then just like, it's like the writers went like, okay, how does he die? He blows up. Oh, okay.
He got boom.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was like a 3.5 for me, I think. Like you said, the getting through the first half really kind of ruined it. The second half it definitely picks up. The performances are pretty good. It's not a bad little like crime thriller. I'm not sure I'll ever watch it again, but it was not bad. Definitely, I think we've established this at this point, but it was like leaps and bounds better than The Ambassador. That's for sure.
Oh, 1,000%. 1,000% better.
Yeah.
It's such a better movie in every way except for the fact that the female character does a lot less.
Basically nothing. Yeah.
Basically nothing. While Ellen Burstyn got to do certain things in the movie beyond just being the reason why they're finding the sex tape, Anne Margaret gets to do nothing in this.
Yeah.
Like the whole ownership is on Roy Scheider of the sex tape is about him. He needs to clean it up. And, oh, by the way, Anne Margaret may have been raped in the movie.
So, like, speaking of the female characters, I actually thought that the girl who he was cheating with was going to factor in more. Like, they sort of set her up in the beginning as also kind of a victim. Like, she fell in with these skeevy porno guys, and they're exploiting her for all this whole blackmail scheme, and she just wants out. And they talk about her like going to school and like all this other stuff. Like, I thought she was going to factor in more. Like, he was also going to have to save her in some way throughout the movie. And I mean, then they do the whole thing where they murder her on camera as like another layer of blackmail. I actually thought that she was actually not dead. Like Leo was going to say that she's at a safe house somewhere. Up until this point that he said, "Oh, she's in the river somewhere." I thought that they were gonna surprise us with that, but alas, they did not.
I agree with you. I thought that she was going to show up in the last reel somehow. Somehow she was going to come back.
Yeah. Kind of a missed opportunity there. Especially, yeah, like you said, like it would have been a good opportunity to have like a female character actually have some part to play in the whole plot. But yeah, really, poor Anne Margaret was it, and she didn't really have a whole lot to do. But I mean, for what she did, the performance was not bad, not like great, I'm sure. But again, I think I said it before. Like, really, the breakouts performances for me were the porno goons. They were all really kind of psychopathic and pathetic and in interesting ways.
100%. Absolutely. Well, Greg, what else have you been watching?
What else? So we actually went to the theater a couple times this week. On Tuesday, we actually got tickets to an advanced screening of the Bob's Burgers movie. Becky is a huge Bob's Burgers fan. She knows that series back to front. She's seen it a million times, so she was super excited for this. I'm a kind of a casual Bob's Burgers fan. I've seen most episodes at least once. It was good. It was a really good movie. I think they did what you should do for like a movie like this, where it was basically just like a longer episode, but they didn't get too complicated with it. They didn't go too big. It felt like just like a long episode. No, it was pretty good. You got some new information. I think they talk about the mythology of Louise's ears a little bit, which is kind of cool, but they didn't go too much. They didn't go too far with it. Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. Good crowd too. Definitely a lot of fans there.
So they didn't put like a dome over.
They didn't do the stupid Simpsons movie thing where they went way too crazy with it, and they didn't try to shoehorn every single character in for like fan service. There was just enough fan service to appease the diehards like Becky, but it was a little bit. It was grounded enough that the casuals like me, it was approachable.
How the fuck has there not been a Simpsons 2?
I don't know. Somehow Zombie Simpsons continues to lurch along into season, like 33, 34 at this point?
Into season fuck. I think you summed it up perfectly right there.
Yeah, say no more. Like, and Bob's Burgers has been going for a while too. I mean, they're in like 17, 18 seasons? No, maybe not like 12, 13, I think at this point.
I think closer to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely interesting that Bob's Burgers has 12 seasons. It only took them 12 seasons to get a movie. Wasn't it like season 25 or something like that for The Simpsons? It was.
Yeah. That was like what, 2006, 2005, something like that.
It was. Yeah.
Yeah, it went up a while, but like that's the obvious comparisons to the Simpsons movie. I think the Bob's Burgers movie was much better, a much better representation of the show at its best, without going like it's the big movie. We've got to go big and go do crazy plots, and every character and every inside joke has to show up at least once. Like, it was very, they rode that line pretty well, I think. So it was definitely worth seeing. And like I said, we got an advanced screening of it, so it was kind of cool to see that a couple days early.
Nice.
So we did that, and then the one that we saw in theaters was the Alex Garland movie, the folk horror movie Men, with Jesse Buckley.
How was that? That's been divisive.
Yeah, we really liked it. There's no question that is absolutely not going to make its money back. I'm glad we saw it this weekend. We saw it on Friday, because that thing is not going to be in theaters much longer. It's too weird for general audiences, I think. But we really liked it. Some really like striking imagery. It was, I mean, I don't know if you're ever going to see it. It did a really good job, like the one guy who shows up in this kind of creepy town. He sort of plays like different parts of masculinity that are like not good. Like, there's one of them he's like the kind of asshole chivalrous guy who just wants to do everything, and there's other one who's like super like rapey, and there's another one who's just sort of like gaslighty and he's kind of a general asshole. Like, there are different like parts of that persona. It was really interesting and really well done and genuinely creepy. And there's, like any good folk horror movie, there is that scene towards the end of this movie, which I will not spoil because I want you to watch it and I want to hear your reaction to it. But
okay,
it like you hear about some gory scenes in this movie, and you think that you think that you've seen them when some of them happen. And then the scene happens towards the end. It's like totally bonkers. Yeah.
That's like one of those, like, okay. And then the scene happens. Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
and you won't miss it. Yeah, if you're a fan of like folk horror in general, I'm trying to figure out like what other things to sort of like compare it to. Nothing's coming to me right now, but definitely if you like your horror movies to be a little weirder, a little bit more symbolic, definitely check it out. Probably
Interesting.
in theaters if you can this weekend, but by the time you listen to this episode, it's probably long gone. So go catch it on streaming somewhere.
Very cool.
What you been watching?
Let's see. I watched a Vinegar Syndrome movie called Body Melt. Did you buy this one?
Body Melt. I don't own Body Melt. I think I watched that on Shudder. It's a couple, geez, probably months ago now. But yeah, that was like about the self help clinic, right?
Yeah. It had pretty neat effects, but overall, I don't know. I just wasn't digging it. Something about it. I don't know if it's like the zaniness from like because it's Australian,
The
so it definitely has.
Ozploitation.
Yeah, like the effects were great, but it just didn't feel like the story was there for me. Yeah, I was a
Yeah,
little disappointed.
that's probably about the same for me. Kind of dragged a little bit.
I rewatched a bunch of Star Trek films. I watched pretty much all of them except for number five.
Hell yeah.
And then I watched Doctor Strange, the 1978 made-for-TV film Doctor Strange,
The
starring
old switcheroo.
Peter Hooton. I gotta say, I rewatched it last night with Jackie, and we had a really great time watching it. I no spoilers, because one day you might be bored enough to watch this, Greg. But the movie is like 90 minutes long, and for 70 minutes of it, it's like a really good medical drama. And then they went, "Oh shit, this guy does magic too." So
Get some rabbits and hats in there.
exactly. So I'm kind of surprised that it didn't get picked up for a TV show. It seemed perfect for the 70s, early 80s. I don't know. It seems like a lost opportunity when we definitely had like the Hulk on TV show. Peter Hooton's Doctor
Yeah.
Strange should have been there as well.
Yeah, I remember I didn't even know that thing existed until I started seeing people talking about the Blu-ray of it when the new Doctor Strange movie came out. Impressive. Impressive that
Yeah.
it even got made then. It seems like kind of an odd choice of a comic book character to try and adapt.
Exactly. He definitely was like a C-list character.
Yeah.
So
Maybe the rights came cheap, who knows.
who knows? Well, Greg, are you ready to go back in time?
Back in time.
Because
Like
I
the
don't want to watch a Chuck Norris film next. I need to watch a movie that I was able to find.
Oh, a canon movie that we had skipped
Yeah, so we're
before?
going back to 1983. A few
Ooh.
movies before 10 to Midnight. There was Treasure of the Four Crowns in 3D. I was able to buy this off of the Kino Lorber site.
Oh, okay. It got a
It's
physical release.
It did, yeah. It's an American, Italian, Spanish international co-production.
Golly.
Ooh. A group of adventurers are gathered together to retrieve some mystical gems that are in possession of a deadly cult.
Oh my god. So I was gonna ask you what the genre was because I couldn't immediately tell, but now I'm getting major flashbacks to King Solomon's Mines.
Yes.
Oh no.
The movie is in Supervision or Wonder Vision. So I'm going to let you borrow my copy in which you can watch this in regular D or in brain splitting 3D because it is the red blue 3D.
So I've never actually watched a full feature film with the old like red blue 3D. How much is my head gonna hurt by the end of it?
I will say I can watch like because this is in Blu-ray. So I've watched Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D with the red blue, and I usually have no problems with it. I think it's when you watch DVDs who have this because it doesn't have like the great definition. Because I have not Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy's Dead. The last 10 minutes of the film is in 3D. Did you know that?
Interesting. I did not know that. Kind of.
There's actually a scene in which the characters in the
yeah.
film put on glasses.
Yep, I remember. And
That is,
yeah, what a gimmick.
That's the moment that you put on your 3D glasses. And because that's in regular DVD definition, fuck, that hurts my head.
Interesting. I wouldn't have thought that would be the deciding factor, just like overall resolution of the picture. But I can kind of see that if it's a little too blurry, your brain is probably trying too hard to focus on the objects.
Exactly.
And there's just not the definition there. Yeah, that makes sense.
So, but you'll have both versions, so you can skip back and forth, or just like check out the 3D, and
yeah,
then
I'll definitely give that a shot. My interest is piqued. I mean, if it's a novelty, if nothing else, even if the movie is shit.
Exactly. It'll be interesting to see what the 3D holds up, because like the Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D, some of the gags legitimately work. And then some of them are just kind of like lame, but it'll definitely be interesting to see.
Mixed up a little bit. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, okay, I'm happy to go back in time. I'm like you said, I will. At this point, I think I've lost all of my appetite for Chuck Norris-driven action films, so that'll be a good change of pace.
Yes, because the next one is a Chuck Norris adventure film, and I'm just not ready for it yet. So
Chuck
the next
Norris's
one will
Mines.
be Treasure of the Four Crowns. Let's go ahead and hit that quote of the week right here again.
I want to hear you say it.
All right, yeah, I'm the guy. Give me the money. Hey, don't touch me!
Something about your face makes me want to slap the shit out of it.
Guess you want to slap the shit out of it.
There you go. Do you have anything else?
No, I'm looking forward to the 3D next week. We'll see.
There we go. Well, if you like what you're hearing, go ahead, like, subscribe, comment anywhere you can. You can find us on YouTube /r/That's Canon. You can see the Mama's Family video that's up there. It's getting a lot of comments.
Of course, there's a Mama's Family video.
You can subscribe to us on every major podcasting network, and you can also send us an email at thatscanon@gmail.com. The email is thatscanon@gmail.com.
We'll read anything.
Yeah, I'll read anything that you send me. It could just be the word fuck over and over again. I'll read it. It's okay. Just send it.
And we'll look at anything you send us, too.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Wink, wink. Ew, don't actually send us creepy things.
And remember, since we said it.
That's canon.
Yeah, I saw that Chuck Norris was next. And I'm like, there's no fucking way I'm doing this. So.
Oh, my gosh.